Well, Dice, first of all, thank you for being here, dude.
No worries, man.
Well, I think the cool, interesting thing about our story of knowing each other is through your older brother. And I think for anyone listening, Jamin, your older brother with slightly less hair, is and less height, was a co-founder of the Man Cave, and I think a pretty special journey to have gone on now that Man Cave's gone on this incredible journey. It's now national. Jamin's off living in another country at the foot of one of the most iconic mountains in the world, over in Mount Kilimanjaro. But I also know like how much of, although you're slightly younger than him, I know how much he does look up to you too.
I've been very fortunate to have a very loving and tight-knit family, which is awesome. And as you say, Jamin, he's kicking it in Tanzania at the moment, living there, and haven't seen him for a couple of years, but keeping in regular contact, and he's doing some amazing things. And quite inspired by what he's been able to do. Firing up captain's camp and with you in the Man Cave, and he's always been a go-getter, always pursuing something, and he comes up with these ideas and just rips into it. So loving what he's doing, and good on you.
Amazing, mate. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get him on, but Mountains and Marathons, his latest project. Never really traveled the world, so he thought he'd build a business to try and do it.
He's off his.
Yeah, we know this. We could have a separate conversation on that. Mate, just for listeners who don't know the background to who you are, would you be able to just give like a real kind of summary as to like who you are and like what's brought you to kind of being the man you are today?
Yeah, beauty. Well, I guess Dyson Heppell. Brother, son, partner, dad to a couple of dogs, and play for the Essendon Footy Club, and been the skipper for the last 5 years. I think little background, growing up in South Gippsland, a place called Leongatha. Very fortunate to have some amazing friends down that way, and had a really tight-knit crew. Growing up in the country, I think just getting involved in as many sports as I possibly could. Loved all my sport. Heavily involved in basketball and footy as well. And I guess I really looked up to my old man, who was quite a good country footballer. Had the big flowing mullet back in the day, redhead. And hear plenty of stories about how good he was. But I did really enjoy going to watch him play as a little kid, and then get involved in Auskick and follow that pathway. But I loved my childhood growing up down there. A lot of camping. Spent a lot of time at the beach in Inverloch at our little beach shack there that you've been to. Heading up to the Murray River, water skiing, things like that. So I was really grateful to have a really fortunate upbringing. Yeah.
Amazing, mate. And family values are something both from your mum and your dad, I know, are just so strong in you guys. And that's through all the brothers that I've seen, but also, I've seen your family help each other out to certain points. And I think it's incredibly inspiring to witness a family unit stay together, not just in the high times, but when things get real,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a good call. Like everyone and every family, every unit goes through their ups and downs, and we certainly have across our time. But I think just, the values that uphold that, certainly just a loving and supporting connected unit. And I think, we were super competitive as kids as well. In particular, our little brother, he was crazy, just so competitive. And I just love that aspect though, that we brought out in each other, and, always had a crack at, trying to one up each other and beat each other at whatever it was. But it was also, the underpinning thing of it all was just real love for each other, and had a lot of care for each other, which is awesome. Yeah.
And I think, poor as well, two high achieving, high performing older brothers, big personalities, kind of trying to remain relevant in the pecking order. And often was the cheeky, naughty kid who got attention. So
yeah, that's Az. No, he's an absolute ripper, but he's, Az is the most caring bloke that, I've ever met. And he's an absolute ripper, but as you say, so cheeky, always getting up to mischief, but seemed to get away with everything too. But I was I will say I was the golden child, so got away with everything, and would try and pin it on Azza if it was something went wrong. But bloody good fun as kids. It was great.
Amazing, man. And growing up, like you mentioned, sport was like religion for you guys. It was just like every weekend, most days during the week, it was just what you guys did. When did you start to notice that you had like a little bit extra, or just things were clicking on the field and like you're playing different sports, but you're just starting to recognize things are starting to move, the game's slowing down. When did that start to click in for you?
Yeah, good call. Look, I think coming through, I was kicking, then rolling into my first year of footy with Leongatha Parrots, Mighty Parrots, under 12s. I was 11, bottom age at the time. Dad was the coach, and we had quite a good team at the time. And I think in my first game, I kicked 5 goals, 4, a few behinds, and probably throughout that, a couple of those my early days in juniors was quite handy, and probably realised I was matched it with some of the better players around Gippsland and whatever it may be, and then. Sort of following that pathway, getting into the Gippy Power program in under 15s and 16s, was fortunate enough to make the Vic Country under 16 side. And it was probably at that carnival that I realised I thought I was pretty handy at the time, but I got shown up quite a bit in that under 16 carnival and realised I had a lot of work to do to try and catch up to the best players in Australia.
Yeah.
So... I've realised quite early I was pretty talented at footy, but it was a real learning curve in that sort of 16-year, 15 turning 16, where I had a hell of a lot of work to do and sort of put some steps in place to make sure I improved a lot over the next couple of years to get myself in a position to be drafted, yeah.
Awesome. And then how was it meeting the city kids?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that would have been somewhat of a culture shock, private school boys, from a very different upbringing to likely what you grew up with.
Yeah, for sure. No, look, I think what I did have though, I played a lot of basketball. Basketball was probably my main sport up until sort of 14, 15. Came down to Melbourne, played with the Melbourne Tigers for that sort of 5-6 year period. And so I got to know a lot of the city boys and city lifestyle, I guess, traveling up on a Sunday for training, playing Friday nights a few times a week in the city. And I think having that experience, doing a lot of travel, meeting new people, and mum and dad were unbelievable in just punching Ks in the old Land Cruiser to and from Leongatha and all over Melbourne. So I think meeting different crew at the time held me in good stead. Then growing up and coming into I guess a more elite environment and meeting different crew, but. Definitely a different mob, the city crew compared to country, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I think just that where you just get absorbed by a new community, but also there's something exciting about that difference, right? Of like being with the city kids and you're like, put me in and I'll see how I go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then the draft happens. Most of us won't ever experience what it's like to go through that, particularly at a young age. What's going on for you inside where you're like, it's exciting, you're talking to different clubs, they're talking to you, your name's being kind of put out there in the media.
Yeah.
Like, what's that experience like?
Oh, it is surreal. It was an amazing sort of journey from that under 16 year where, I really trying to figure out where I sat, how hard did I want to pursue this AFL dream? I'd sort of given up on the basketball by then and just purely focused on footy. And I think just probably from Dad, his real resilience and drive was instilled at me in a young age. And I just, something really clicked in me. And I just wanted to pursue that dream as hard as I possibly could when I was, it's turning 16, 17. And just putting a lot of work in my body and fitness and improving my craft. And I think, in my under 18s bottom age year, had a reasonable year, probably developed quite well, but it wasn't until I was top age with Gippsland Power that I really came on the radar with AFL clubs and probably deep within myself knew I could have a proper crack at this. And just throughout that year, it was an awesome journey, sort of coming through captain of Gippsland Power and then the Vic Country Carnival, coming through with some unbelievable players and lads. And then you follow the year further on. We managed to have a really successful year and made the TAC Cup Grand Final. Got smoked by Calder, which is flattening, but anyways. And then it turns to then progressing to talking to AFL clubs and getting a lot of interest via my manager, Marty Pask at the time, who has been unbelievable for me. It was just a crazy journey and going to school during the week, and your mates are sort of semi-asking who's been talking to you, and following your journey really closely as well. And they were so supportive in everything I did in terms of, obviously couldn't rock up to parties and socialising that was happening a hell of a lot in that, year 12 year. But they were just unbelievable in just knowing what I was pursuing and holding a real interest, and just so supportive in whatever I wanted to do as well. But yeah, a bit of a funny one leading into the draft. Draft camp and whatnot. Throughout that year, I'd spoken to every single club bar Essendon. I was a mad Essendon fan growing up, and I was just semi-flat that the Dons hadn't spoken to me. And anyway, we got through the year and ended up getting invited up to the draft, which was being held on the Gold Coast, camping with the family, Burleigh Heads Caravan Park there. And anyway, a couple of nights before the draft, get a call from Adrian Dodoro, head recruiter at the Bombers. He said, Dice, I've got James Hurd on board. He was the first year as coach, and a couple of the other recruiters, and we're keen to come and have a chat. And I was like, oh, you're joking. So I'm kicking at my boardies in a singlet, like piping hot singlet. And they've rolled into the caravan park. Had to let him in at the boom gate. Come in, they literally sat around our camp chairs around the campsite with the tent in the background. And that was my interview from the Bombers for the draft. And they said, if you're available at pick 8 tomorrow night, we're going to take you. And there was a whole sort of backstory with our doc letting out rumours about my groins and all this kind of jazz. So there was plenty of stuff going on. Had to meet with more clubs the night before the draft, things like that. But I was so grateful, meeting my hero in Hurdy, sitting on the our camp chair around our tent, and then going to the Bombers the next night. So that was a pretty wild journey, but just something I look back on with super fond memories.
And so wholesome, sitting around there.
It was wicked. It was great. Yeah, it's just like I didn't think much of it at the time, but you look back and go, geez, that's a different type of interview from a club, and just the way it all panned out was unreal. Yeah.
And why was Hurdy such a role model for you?
Yeah, I think. I was actually so when growing up, family mad Cats fans.
Yeah.
I was going for the Cats too. And then me and my cousin, we just decided to jump ship. I think Dons were going pretty well at the time, so we ended up going for the Bombers when I was about 4 or 5. Dad didn't want to borrow me for a while, but ended up getting the Dons kit. And then, I just think obviously Hurdy, superstar player, his ability, but also his leadership. And you could see the care and joy that he had towards the team and the playing group, and the way that he carried himself. I just love the way he went about it. So, and then coming into the club, he was such a mentor for me. They empowered me so much as a 18, 19-year-old coming in, just to be myself and bring my natural, authentic flair to the team environment. I thought was super. So
so rare to hear from like a role model of that era as well. To hear someone, there are incredible role models out there. We've all been exposed to them at different times, but I think someone to encourage you to be yourself, to bring your authentic flair, as you said, is like, that's pretty remarkable for him to see that inside you as like an 18, 19-year-old. Yeah,
for sure. No, he was unreal. And coming off the back of the old cultures of sort of wait your turn until you speak up, earn your respect first before you challenge someone or give anyone feedback. And he was literally just straight off the cuff was, mate, you come in here, age isn't a barrier. We'll give you the opportunity if you're willing to work for it. And if you want to lead, you lead in your own way and just be yourself. And, so grateful for that. It just, I guess not a weight off the shoulders, but it was just like, that's awesome. I can just kick around and be myself. And, it's something that then, coming into leadership positions is just a massive part of what I want to drive as part of our culture. Is anyone that walks through that door, as a young kid, I just want them to feel super safe to be whoever they are. And we want to embrace and celebrate everyone's uniqueness.
So refreshing to hear, because, we've grown up and probably played in clubs and where it's been almost the opposite of that, right? It's about competition at all costs. It's like the alpha has the loudest voice in the room. He's kind of directing traffic. He's got the quickest banter. He chases the most beautiful women, parties the longest, and it's like, cool. But like, how does that help us? That might help you in a moment, but like, how does that help the overall culture? Yeah,
for sure. And I've certainly been a part of that and have dived into that, looking up to older or bigger blokes in the team and going, you know, they might pick on someone small. Oh, that's the cool thing. They get a laugh out of that. You know, that's what I might have to do. You know what I mean? And you sort of conform to that. Yep, this is the way we're going here. And it's amazing the influence when you are coming through those early teenage years that older guys can have on you, and the more influential people in your group can have, and how they shape semi who you are. And then it takes a while to figure out that shit, that's not me. You know, that's not me. It doesn't sit right. There's something there. And I think just being able to lean into that as much as you can, and having that awareness that it's not can be the tough thing. But you know, it's pretty rewarding and freeing when you do find that. Yeah,
absolutely. Dill Bucker and I talk about that on the couple podcasts we've been on, of like this nature of like kind of performing a bit. Yeah, you know, but you're almost unconscious in doing it. Yeah, it's like that's the culture. I'm almost on autopilot doing it. Yeah, but then there are certain things that happen where you're like, oh, that doesn't. That's against 100%. Against my values. But also, I kind of feel a bit trapped. Yep. Like I don't know how to navigate out of this. And crazy thing in my experience is it often either takes a really exceptional role model to kind of wake you up a bit, or alternatively, it takes like a tragedy.
Yes, good call.
Something that happened, you go, fuck, like what was happening there? Yeah, shit. Can't believe I was going that way.
Yep, absolutely. It's a good shout. And I think just on that, like one of those sort of little stories when I first became captain and was given that role, a lot of the feedback throughout my journey around my leadership was, you know, I'm not stern enough, I'm not hard enough, I'm not, you know, aggressive enough towards, you know, the playing group and upholding extreme standards or whatever it may be. And early days I was like, okay, this is what they want from me. I need to be the one that's not berating, but the loud vocal voice that's holding everyone to account and whatever. And it just, you know, I definitely tried. I was like, but it just wasn't me. And it just never sat right. Now, I nearly felt like after, you know, having a fair dip at a couple of younger guys when, you know, they weren't training as well as they could have been or whatever, I remember just going, that was shit ass. Like, that's not me. You know, I'm far more come from a caring nature, rather just ask them how they're going and get it from them rather than me telling them what to do. And I just think it took that little bit of time to adjust and go, all right, why have I been given this tremendous honour as a captain? And it was for being who I was. I didn't have to change anything, and it did take me a while to really, you know, grasp that and feel comfortable in the role itself. And I think just, you know, knowing that I did have the respect from the boys that, you know, I'm a leader for being who I am, and have eventually found my niche and still learning a hell of a lot on the go, but I've loved it.
Oh, you haven't got it? Yeah.
Oh, man, absolutely
I thought you
not.
just got the level. Yeah.
Man, no.
Oh, so good. I'm curious about, like, you know, in my experience of leadership is there are like kind of certain almost like crucible moments that kind of shape our character development and our leadership. And part of that is kind of fucking up or going the wrong way sometimes, but also like just being exposed to moments of leadership from others that really kind of imprint themselves on who we are. And maybe we're not present to it at the time, but it's one of those things that kind of sprouts over time. Yep. Have there been any moments of real leadership in your life, and it doesn't even have to be in a sporting context, that you've been like, that really inspires me? I almost don't even know why, but it just inspires me.
Yeah, fair call. Look, it's probably going right into the thick of it, but throughout our saga that we had, Joe being the captain at the time, he was just unbelievable in terms of protecting his playing group at all costs. And it probably went unrecognised from myself at the time, but looking back on it now, like he was just amazing in terms of the way he held himself, the extra things that he did away from the limelight and away from the cameras to try and ensure that we were all okay as people, as players, and that it was going to be all right. And just having his influence and I guess the way he carried himself really, I think, helped put me at ease, helped me feel like it was all going to be okay no matter what. And look, he even, I feel Joe really, in the end, sacrifices a lot of his own individual performance and accolades and whatever it may be to protect his teammates. And that, you know, that's just a sign of tremendous leadership, and something that I'm just extremely grateful to have him at the time to help guide us through that. Yeah.
And man, even from a media perspective, just the battering he copped, right?
No
it was just, you know, it was the beginning of the clickbait era, you know, and I think some people will likely never know what he did for that playing group, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, coming back to your point, that is leadership, right?
Yeah.
It's doing the right thing when no one's looking. It's doing the thing, not expecting a return, but because it's morally aligned with who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
And
That's right.
And I think just incredibly powerful for you, the captain now, to reflect back on moments like that is huge. What do you think, like, being a professional athlete who's a captain, what is it that people don't see? Like that, I think that's a phenomenal example with Joe, but like, what are the parts that we don't see that goes in, like almost the magic and the glue that's sometimes a bit messy, you know?
True. Yeah. Look, there are obviously a few extra commitments that you do have to uphold as part of being part of the captain or leadership group in itself. There's the extra coterie group functions, things like that are, the smaller side of it. But I guess the little bits are just the daily interactions, the daily conversations, the upholding of standards, the little pieces within the club that make up the culture. And I just think the influence of your core group of players and the leaders themselves have such a big play in what that culture looks like. And the young guys coming in can get a real feel and sense for it really quickly. So I just feel it's trying to be that link from the coaches and the playing group to just all build on this one aligned collective culture that you want to enforce and drive. And that takes a lot of work. It does. You need to sort of be on the button in terms of little things that pop up, being able to knock them on the head straight away without letting them fester and becoming a larger issue than what they need to be. And then it becomes a tough conversation. So, I think it's just all those little pieces that sort of go unnoticed, but are big in the long run.
Absolutely. And I think like catching things before they drift.
No doubt.
Such an important, and sometimes we have to learn that lesson quite a few times.
Guaranteed.
Because it's also scary, back to your point around like asserting yourself as a leader. Part of that can be confronting, but then also like, the conflict, the name, I'm going to be that guy that kind of kills the buzz here.
Yep, for sure.
And are they going to get angry at me, not trust me? Am I not? Are they going to, respect me? Right?
Absolutely. It's such a tough one to handle at times. But I think if it all starts with relationships and genuine care, and they know you're coming from the right place, then it's so much easier to handle. Yeah.
And I think, a fundamental principle I think is wonderful in any context, any culture, like professional sport, business, or just life, is relationship before transaction.
Love it.
It's like you got to have that trust and connection before I can, let alone tackle the biggest guy on the field.
Guaranteed.
But all like I can trust you to share something, that's really incredibly vulnerable that I need you to hold right now.
Sure.
That it's got to be there.
Yeah.
So how do you, as the captain of the club, try and create that culture for the younger guys stepping in? Like what is there? And also like maybe just talk to culture, because it kind of gets thrown around a bit, like culture, what's the culture?
Yeah,
but like
sure.
My experience is like, until I've actually felt and been in a healthy culture, I just kind of didn't know what it was.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. And it's probably only really this last 12 months, last 18 months since Ben Rutten-Truck has taken over as coach, and the playing group that we have at the moment and the type of characters that are involved has really gave me a sense for what culture is all about. And I feel it is something that is constantly moving and growing and adapting for the type of people that come in and out of the footy club as well. And as you say, I really feel we're building towards something special at the moment, and just loving the environment we're in, and have always believed that culture precedes performance, and you get that right, and then the rest falls into place. And I think in terms of what you can do with the young guys coming into the club, it's just getting to know them. It's making sure that they realise that you're there for them no matter what, and just have put a nice little support network around them from the senior players to go, boys, we just want you to be yourself, do your thing. We're always going to support you. Make mistakes. You're only going to grow and learn if you do make mistakes, and we'll embrace that. And just make them feel really comfortable as soon as they walk in the door. And a big part of that was a little induction that we had with those first year players, and even new staff that come in, to get them really aligned to our values and what we stand for. And that's also looking back at the history of the footy club, what Essendon was founded from, and the type of people, the type of players, and I think they really enjoyed that, got a lot out of it. So they're now Essendon people, and it's pretty special. Yeah.
Wow, man. And what I also hear in that is it's about not just developing the player, but developing the person.
Yeah, big time.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they come in as, sometimes as boys,
Yep.
And leave as men, of character, really.
Yep.
That's the goal.
Guaranteed.
Who can also perform on the field.
That's right. Yeah.
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 And in terms of the club dynamic, how do you navigate just on a personal level, like running out onto like the MCG, a pumped crowd, so like I said at the beginning, so many people will just never experience that moment. Can you just talk us through, like, you've got the culture, you've got the team, you've got the brotherhood, and you're running out. Like, what's that moment like?
Mate, it is nuts. It is honestly nuts. And it's something that I do remember back to my first, I think it was NAB Cup at the time, first NAB Cup game. And I came out, I was at Marvel Stadium, or Etihad, and I remember coming out and running out the race and going, like, the buzz that I got through my body I'd never experienced before. Just this feeling of electricity and energy. And I remember after the game sitting in the locker room going, that is so addictive. Like, that feeling that I got was like, that is nuts,
Yeah.
And then that was only NAB Cup leading into my debut. Played at Marvel again in front of 40-odd thousand, and that was just a next level experience. And then you go again to my first Anzac Day game, probably game 6, I think it was, in front of 100,000. And I remember the minute silence, standing there out on the ground, and you could hear a baby cry in the top tier, and I was just smiling I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And no doubt along comes with that is the extreme nerves, anxiousness. There's a whole roller coaster of emotions, but I think if you just embrace and accept that and learn to love that, that feeling is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is hard to explain, but it's something that, I think the day I finish footy that'll be the one thing that I'll really, really miss,
Yeah. Oh, I could almost feel it from here, But then I think the other side to that is you have these incredible peak experiences and you're hyper on too. Like all your senses are so attuned. But then we're also humans, and there is the come down from that experience too. Could you talk us through, like, if that is true, and if so, like, what happens?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I guess. Yeah. It is a tough one. You know, coming off the massive highs and lows of wins and losses is something that I think myself and as a team over the years we've been caught on that roller coaster of going overboard after a win, and you end up a bit lethargic and whatnot throughout that week. And it's the term complacent. I wouldn't say it's complacency, but it's just the feeling of that high and just thinking it's going to happen again, and you just go searching for that feeling, and you end up going away from what makes it good, what makes you a good player and team. So I think it took time to learn just to get off that roller coaster, keep things as stable as possible. But also, like, when you do have a great moment or a great team win, is really celebrate that. Enjoy that moment. Don't try and go, nah, we're moving on to next week.
Totally.
Just if you feel what you feel, and just enjoy it and embrace that. But also, when things aren't going so well, just understand that it's never as bad as what you think it is, and try and level out that, bring the water level up a bit. So,
nice.
It's been a big learning for me over the time with that one.
And I love what you said as well, because I think there was a period of time, and maybe it's still present in sport, where it was like, no, we got it. Don't worry, the job's not done. The grand final's just another game. It's like, well, actually, it's not. It's the grand final, and you know what? We've worked our asses off to get here, and we've earned this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of this, like, are we all just going to pretend we're lying to each other now?
Yeah, guaranteed. I know. So true. And you have to celebrate those small moments along the way, no doubt.
That's it. And I think coming back to culture, taking stock and celebrating wins is incredibly important, because you not only reflect, but you look and you feel how you earned
That's it. No doubt. Yeah.
That's it.
The reinforcement, the feeling, and exactly.
Yeah. And we can go again, but right now let's be present.
Yeah, guaranteed. Yeah,
nice.
Love it.
And so how do you, like, with all this kind of, you've had a few years in the seat now of leadership, but like you still have to front up to be the guy, walking down the street, you see Dice, can we get a quick photo? It's like you're living your life just as you, but other people seeing you, it's sometimes their first experience of you, right?
Yeah, sure.
And if you're just having a shitty day, like the rest of humanity, then and you're not as happy or you didn't answer the thing as cleanly as you want to, they just don't get that, right?
Yeah, true.
So how do you just navigate just that almost the always on mentality?
Yep, that's a fair shout. Look, I certainly don't get as much attention since I cut the dreads off now, which is nice. But look, I've always been extremely grateful for our supporters, but just the kindness of fans in general. And it's something that I've always not said to myself, but I've always just enjoyed those daily interactions with fans or whoever it may be that just wants to have a chat or, just hear some beautiful stories of parents coming up saying, you're such an inspiration to my kids or whatever it may be, or thanks for signing their card, or just these little things, visiting kids in hospitals. And I just get such a buzz out of that. But on that point, I do remember after a massive clinic we had out at the club one time, I was just like itching to get out of there, done, fatigued, come off a loss the night before. And I was just getting bombarded with signatures on the way to the car. And I remember I was right near the car and I knocked a bloke back. From a signature. And he didn't spray me, but he just, the look of disappointment on his face. And then I quickly turned around to do it for him because I was like, oh my God, that just felt horrible. And he said, no, you can pretty much get stuffed. And from that point, I was like, I'm never going to bar anyone from a signature. I'll never do that. And I felt it myself when I was at a function when I was in India at one stage, funnily. I won't name him, but an elite cricketer barred me from a signature. And then I felt what that feels like.
Wow.
And I just thought, I'll never do that to anyone if they want something for them or their kids or whoever it may be. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's a reflection on, your value system too there as well. And, it's more than just the people pleaser. It's the gratitude that I hear.
No
there.
doubt. Yes, absolutely. And it's like, I don't know, I'm just so grateful for the position that I'm in. And if I can bring joy to someone's day or whatever it may be, then I love that. Like I'll give them more than a time a day. Yeah.
So good, man. I love that. And just on that thread, outside of footy, you're quite involved in quite a few causes or one particular cause that's close to your heart.
Yep.
Love to just hear you share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, cool. Love it. So, it was a while ago now. My grandmother, my Oma, passed away from a condition called scleroderma. It's like an autoimmune disease that attacks all the major organs in your body. And from that, I became an ambassador for the Scleroderma Foundation, just learning more about it. It's not well known or there's no cure at this stage, and we needs a lot more awareness, recognition and funding to try and get down that path towards a cure. But something that I hold, I'm very proud to be the ambassador for the foundation, and I've just met some unbelievable people through this, through this little setup, and one of those being little Harrison Pennicott, little H-man, youngest, I'm pretty sure the youngest in the world to be diagnosed with scleroderma. He was a Mad Little Bombers fan, and he came out to the club going back, it'd be 5-6 years ago now, and I remember meeting him at the time, and he was this most shyest little kid. Hardly got a word out of him on the first day, but met his beautiful family and his brother, and gave him a tour through the footy club. And anyway, didn't think much of it, and thought, hey, he's just a ripper little kid. But anyway, and then got in touch again not long after through a function I think we had with scleroderma, and that next day was like I could not shut him up. He was just the most bubbly, energetic, just beautiful little kid. And I was like, this kid is a weapon. I love him. And anyway, from that point, we've just built this unreal little friendship. And he's just like, I don't know, every time I hang out with him, I just leave full of life, and just the way he just approaches things and the troubles and whatnot that he's been through is just ridiculous. Hard to explain how much he's had to go through, and just the attitude that he has on life and his outlook. And I don't know, for such a young kid, 9 years old, and has this head on him of a 30-year-old. I reckon the emotional maturity of an elderly man is unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I think that what he's had to move through is more than most of us go through an entire lifetime.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Is there anything particular that you've learned from him, just from seeing his resiliency over the time that you've known him?
Yeah, look, I just one thing that really sticks out is that someone else's problems are always bigger than yours. You know, this is going back maybe a month ago now. He had to get a finger removed due to some staph infection that he had in his hands. And anyway, his mum rang and just said, look, he's a little bit nervous about his operation tomorrow. Can you give him a buzz? So gave him a buzz. And anyway, we're just talking through it and whatnot. And by the end of it, he just said, look, he goes, Dice, who needs fingers anyway? And like, I was just like, man, what is that attitude? I just love it. Like, he's like, you know, other people have got more problems than what I've got going on. And it's just like, I don't know where he comes up with his stuff, where he's heard it, but he's just just a little trooper, and just, I don't know, fills me with a hell of a lot of life. Another one, I came in from a loss against Geelong. I think it was country round, and came down the race. He was sitting on his dad's shoulders, and I could see him from a mile back just waving. Could not care that we just lost, and I had a stinker. And anyway, I ended up grabbing him off his dad's shoulders and carried him into the rooms, and you have your debrief after the game. And I remember getting up and sort of, you know, in front of the boys, and I started getting a bit heated and swearing a bit.
Yeah.
And H just sort of grabs me on the legs, and he's just like, geez, you're swearing a lot. And it just gave me like the biggest, like right in front of, just interrupted the speech. Yeah. And I was just like, had a snigger, laugh, and it was sort of just relaxed the whole environment. It's like, man, you know, in the end, this does not mean much at all.
Oh, man.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just a little champ.
Oh, and just like someone who's living life, you know, and I think balances out a loss, right? In the scheme of things, right?
Guaranteed, yeah.
Oh, man. And I think it sounds like it keeps you balanced too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That work off the field, not even work, you know, just something that feels aligned to who you are, puts it all in perspective.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I do get a lot of joy from it, and just the people that I've been fortunate enough to meet through it is pretty special, yeah.
Amazing, mate. Just on the theme of off the field, you've been with Kate for quite a while.
Yeah.
What's the origin story of you two?
Yeah, Kate and I. Geez, we're coming up year 12 now, so far out. We're getting deep into it. But no, look, we're family friends since we were kids. Went to the same primary school. She was a year younger, along with her twin. She's a twin with Alex. And then a lot of water skiing weekends away with the families and other mates of ours growing up. And then I guess we hit it off when we were sort of 16, 17. My best mate was actually her best mate, Nico, as kids as well. And he sort of linked us up, and away we went. So, look, I think it's been just an unbelievable journey. She was still doing year 12 when I was drafted. I was probably a horrendous boyfriend in my first year of footy, just so committed to my footy. I don't think I even picked her up from the train station when she'd come down. I'd make her find her way to the house and things like that. And I look back going, my God, how did she stay with me back then? But she's just been unbelievable support of mine. And I just love her. In terms of like an emotional side of things, she's taught me a hell of a lot. So much, just to be willing to open up, be vulnerable, share whatever's going on. And she's just been huge in that capacity. And just so grateful for our relationship, everything she's done for me. She inspires me every day too, just for who she is and the outlook that she has on life. Yeah,
so good, man. I can't, like, it's for me, one of the challenges in my relationship is like I invest so much in work and, like, you know, growing and, like, you know, getting goals, etc. But then sometimes I come back into my relationship, I don't have the energy to give, and then like Loz, my partner, is like, she's like, where are you spending your time? Like, you know, this is us, this is our life, we're building it. And like, that's been like such a journey for me. But then again, like, I imagine for you, there's the travel component too. Sure. There's the body soreness. There's like, you know, like all of that.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Kate hates footy at times. She's been waiting for me to retire for 6 years, I reckon. But no, look, and on that, like, she has had to sacrifice an enormous amount for that. Yeah. And no doubt she understands every time I, you know, can't come for a beer on a Friday or, you know, go to this, you know, birthday party or whatever it may be, and don't know who KT loves a beard. That's for sure. And but look, yeah, she definitely understands. Definitely has our times where we do kick off because of that.
Yeah.
Just can't. I guess. Yeah, we're trying to build this life together and want to do things that she absolutely loves, and I love it that she wants me there all the time.
Yeah,
which is pretty special. But yeah, she's just unbelievably supportive along those lines. She knows that it doesn't last forever, and pursue it as long as you like. And but I think once I call it a day, she'll be KT time for a couple of years, I think. So I'll have to,
she'll be clocking on.
That's it. She's clocking on. So yeah, but look, I'm super excited for that stage as well. Anyway, whenever that may be, but. Yeah, there you go.
Amazing, man. And shout out to Kate. Well done for hanging in there. I promise it'll be worth it.
I love your work, Dale. Keep punching.
Keep punching. Just on that theme of transitioning out of sport, it's interesting, just like that period where so much identity is wrapped up, and even the peak experiences of running out in the G, and that's a thing that you're likely going to miss. But then we hear so many stories of guys who are transitioning out of sport, and often from professional sport, it's like you're actually shown the door. So the transition out is tough because there's almost like a severing of a tie. Yet you've been so embedded and knitted into a community that's done so much, kind of supported you and taken care of everything for you, and now suddenly you're out on your own. And a certain few can transition into commentary or coaching, but then there's a vast majority that can't. How do you start to think about that transition out of sport for you? And anything that makes you excited or nervous in that transition?
No, it's hit me a couple of times where I do get shit scared about it, to be honest. It's a bloody tough period, I reckon. And I've seen guys that have handled it really well, and seen the other side of the spectrum too, where it just hits them in the face that I've left the game with not a lot, nothing to really fall back on. And that can be a really tough and trying period. And a lot of it, I think, is centered around just your purpose in general. Like you have a really set purpose when you are within a footy club and, heading towards something, and then you leave the game with shit, what's next? And I think crucial for me was doing a lot of work around what I stand for and who I am as a person outside of a footballer, not just being put in the bucket of Dyson the footballer. That's just what I do, not who I am. And I think as long as I can align myself to that, then I'm good. And the networks and support that we've had around the Essendon Footy Club too, I've just been fortunate to meet some amazing people that I've been able to invest in various businesses and just learn on the go, spending a bit of time in board meetings and in those businesses, which has been really cool as a learning experience. Never had any main motivation to study or anything like that. So, look, I've got a fair few passions outside of the game. Dad was a builder, so I've always loved property. So that there may be some piece down the property track post-footy. I love the wellness side of things and the mental side of the sport in itself. So, May's try and sort of head down that path as well. But for what exactly it looks like, I have no bloody idea. Scares me, excites me. But I feel like, I'll find my way as we go and, see how we go.
Nice. And I think what you've done, you've planted the seeds already, and whether it's, investments, just being in boardrooms so you're exposed to it, you're developing your network so you're surrounded by a community.
True.
So that you're not just straight out naked in the wild.
Exactly. That's right. No doubt.
That's cool. And so I just want to go back to what you said as well around like doing your own personal work. And I know this, through your beautiful brother, Jamin, that's a big part of his identity too, of growth. What did it look like, or what does it look like for you to kind of work out what your purpose is, what your values are outside of just Dyson, the captain of the footy club? Yeah,
sure. I think I've done a couple of little processes, one through the footy club and one externally, but a lot of it is based around just finding out a list of things that you value, what you stand for, and then I just came up with 6 core values that I really want to stand for. And then, it's sort of about filling those buckets and, having that awareness of where you might be lacking in your life if things pop up and you're not feeling the best that you should or that you want to, and just having an awareness of, okay, where am I lacking in my life? And then just focusing some attention there. You might be filling up separate buckets as you go and making sure that you stay at a nice level, level. And I think, big part of that for me is around, meditation, journaling, gratitude, things like that just really help keep me stable as well.
Love it. I think for me personally, those are kind of the cornerstones of my wellbeing practice as well. And I think that the art of it for me has been, if I forget those things or I'm not doing those things, not to just judge myself for
guaranteed.
it. Because then it becomes its own loop and you can't just wig yourself out and you're judging yourself for not keeping up your mental health routine or whatever it is.
No, spot on.
It's just, you know, it's like, it's just cool. I haven't been doing it. Let's lightly step back into it and get the train going again.
Yeah, guaranteed. I know you see a lot of people that just haven't experienced, whether it may be meditation or whatever, just go full noise into a half hour a day or whatever it may be. And it's just like, that's not going to last. So I think those little bits. And another part for me too is having, you would know Hugh Van Cuylenberg through Hugh's work in the Resilience Project, and started off with his gratitude journal and punching that out every morning, or every evening, doing the journal, and then meditating 10 minutes a day in the mornings when I wake up. And it was just such a structured routine. And then I kind of figured that it wasn't translating to the other parts of my life and trying to be present and in separate moments throughout my life. So sort of tried to scrap the routine a bit. And this is only recently really, and just try and bring bits of meditation into my daily life, whether it's walking up to get a coffee, eating breakfast, brushing your teeth, you know, things like that, that just sort of, I think are far more meaningful and, you know, translate right across your broader life rather than just having it so structured and set.
Absolutely. I think it's the integration, right?
Yeah, guaranteed.
And then the being present of, you know, I'm in an Uber, do I watch a highlights video, you know, or do I sit here and actually go, you know, I'm just going to do my breathing?
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. No doubt.
Like,
so many ways you can do it for sure. Yeah.
I think it's kind of like, you know, there's so many things pulling us out of doing that. Like there's so many seductive things that are like, you know, the apps or my notifications or like, you know, and so many pleasure seeking activities that it's almost hard to go against our own conditioning because we're so wired to like distract ourselves. And I think, you know, personally, some of the most profound moments of like insight, wisdom, or just like slowing down have come when I had just no tech.
Yeah, guaranteed. Guaranteed. Yeah, I love it. You know, even going camping the weekend, just going like getting away, no service up in the bush. And just like you actually feel so refreshed coming back a few days later and you go, that's wicked. And then you sort of sit down and you lock into 60 unread emails and you sort of bury back into it and you sort of got to catch yourself, you know, at times. And just having that awareness, trying to bloody scrap as much of it as you possibly can, I reckon.
That's it. And having the foresight to kind of almost just put them in your calendar and kind of certain days in your year. So, you know, you've got that just to kind of chill out.
That's it. That's right. Yeah. But I think even on things like social media, like so many, I think there's crew out there that are saying it's such a cancerous thing and it's so bad and vile, but I think it can be so powerful as well with a lot of great work that organisations are doing and individuals and inspiring people, and so I love it for that type of stuff as well.
It's absolutely, it's a tool, and how do we choose to use that tool? You know, can we set our own boundaries around turning off our notifications, you know, airplane mode, etc. And also, to your point, like I've had some of the most incredible educational experiences on social media.
Yeah, guaranteed.
And exposed to people I would never normally find.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't hear that talked about too often, but I think.
But also being sucked into the sponsored ads and buying heaps of clothes that I shouldn't. So I'm also still trying to navigate that one.
Yeah, and if you want to buy any personal care, buy stuff.
Exactly. Stuff got me.
That's it. Mate, final thing, just as we wrap up, we're just interested in like the younger version of ourselves. So the part of obviously the origin of stuff is Man Cave and supporting boys to, you know, not just for boys but for themselves to have better relationships and better communities. Any advice like that you would give to your younger self now that you've got a bit more time in the ring? Is there any advice that you'd give to your younger self? And it doesn't have to be polished or perfect, just whatever resonates with you.
True. Advice to my younger self. I think for me, a lot of what I try and live by is just being just genuine and care for others. I just feel, actually touching on this, when I remember in grade 2, part of that conforming to a certain look or image, I remember that I had a couple of mates that were, you know, they were quite stern and were bullies, right? And I remember bullying a couple of girls in my year. And I remember my teacher named Sue Bolshin. People who went to Langatha Primary School will know Miss Bolshin inside out. I was shit scared of her. And anyway, she was actually unbelievable in recognizing what I was doing, and instead of berating me or giving me an absolute serve, she literally just sat me down and made me understand what I had caused and the emotional, or not trauma,
The
but
impact.
the impact that I had had. And, you know, I think just the way she went about it in such a caring manner was just so influential in my life at that time. And I never knew that, never knew that. But I look back at that period and go, shit, I grew so much in grade 2 from one teacher having the time of day and showing, I think, genuine care for me as well, not only the girls that I was hurting, to understand that. And I was like, look back and go, I'm so grateful for that. I'm probably still am shit scared of her, but I was so grateful for the way she handled that. And then the next week of those mornings, she'd actually, I think part of my punishment, she made me carry her books from her car to the classroom every morning. And I actually got, I don't know, I got so much respect for her about the way she punished me and just getting to know her through that little period too. It was pretty cool. And it's something I don't reckon I've ever told that story, but something that just clicked in my mind. And anyway, younger self, show genuine care to others. And I think, you know, what you give back is what you'll receive as well. So, big one for me.
I love that. And for me, it's the teachable moments with young people, you know, and it's like, are you doing that because you just want to fit in?
Yeah.
And actually, I know who you are behind that. So I'm just going to use this moment just to go, hey, I know you didn't mean that. Here's the impact of your behavior.
Yep.
Now what?
Yeah, no,
you know? I love
guaranteed.
that.
Yeah.
Well, Dice, absolute pleasure. Man, love your family. Paul, Anne-Marie, Jamin, Kate, as I said, extremely, extremely grateful for the role you guys have played in the journey of Man Cave and now Stuff. And I just think you're an extraordinary leader too. So thank you, mate.
Hunter, thanks, brother. Really appreciate you, mate, and absolutely inspired by everything you're doing as well. So keep punching, bro, and we'll link up.
Nice.
Good man.
You. Thanks, brother.
Good on you.
So good, man.